In the last episode, we started shaping the keel timber. Now, we had to make the timbers for the rest of the backbone. This involves making patterns to get the shapes of the timbers, but since we don't have wood that's large enough, we also have to make laminated timbers.
So now it's time to cut out the patterns that we printed off of the lofting floor, and that's what we have here. So these are all the patterns for the stem, which is the bow part of the boat, and the stern, which is the back part, and these will give us the shapes of all of those timbers that end up basically forming the backbone of the boat that bolt onto the front and the back of our wooden keel. So these were picked up off the lofting floor by hammering in nails all along the lines, putting these pine boards on them, walking back and forth, and we call that printing. So if you look real closely, you can see the spots where the nail heads were. And then you put a nail at each one of those spots, spring a batten, and connect the dots, and you end up with something that looks very much like what is drawn on the lofting floor. So on this side, there's the outline and the rabbit line, and then on the other side are the stations and the water lines, and these will be used as reference marks when we go to do the assembly for everything. Once they get trimmed to size, we'll take the water lines and the station lines, we'll square them up across the face and mark them on the other side as well. So once we have these cut out, we can take them over to our big timbers and lay them all out and figure out how best to use the timbers we have. Some of the timbers that we have aren't quite big enough, so we'll have to do some gluing. Some will be hole-sized. We haven't quite figured all of that out. But if you have patterns for everything, you can lay them all out and you can move things around and really play with it and figure out how best to use your timbers. Because if we just did them one at a time and say took our stern post and went and picked a great piece for this, we might end up hosing ourselves down the road. Maybe it was better to make the stern timber out of 2 pieces and save that big honker for, I don't know, maybe the bow knee. So by making all the templates and then laying them all out and setting lumber aside for each one, we can be sure that we use them the best way possible.
All 6 patterns are cut, but before we can start gluing, we gotta check them on the lofting floor. And now, the gluing. We started with the dry run to check everything.
Alright, so when we put these on, we want to try to make sure that we even the forces out as much as we can.
Mm-hmm.
So if one's on the right, one should be on the left.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So this one will go in there. And then one in opposite direction of each other. Alright, I'm happy with that. That's good.
Then we figured out how we're going to lay the glue and put everything back together. And now, the careful weighing of the 2-part glue. We used Aerodux 185, a phenol resorcinol glue, because of its proven reliability with oak. This is the glue they use to make marine grade plywood, so this should work.
How's it looking?
Seems to be holding. I keep hearing things cracking and snapping, but I think it's just the clamps coming off and like the little bit of glue that's dried on them.
Yeah.
I'm trying to watch as I undo them and see if I can see any of the glue lines expand or any like cracks form or anything. So far, I haven't noticed anything. It's like nerve-wracking.
Right.
I mean, we won't know if it's a really good glue job for a little while. We'll know for sure in a few weeks when we start cutting them. Okay. Now, these are going to be really interesting to see how glued on these buggers are. Wow.
Wow.
All right. That's a good sign. This might require toolage.
This one came off. Most of this one came off.
I mean, this came off because of the fiberboard shear.
Yeah.
Not
I mean,
because
same thing here.
Not because of the glue bond.
Yeah.
So I guess we just wait. I don't know. I mean, it's not ready to be worked.
No.
We definitely got to get it out of the sun and get it covered.
Yeah.
But I kind of wonder if we don't clean out a spot in the back of the garage here and just start stacking these finished glue up pieces in here. And then they won't be in our way in the boathouse. We can just bring them out as we need them.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Oh, just one little piece of the bow.
There are 6 more laminations to go, but there was one in particular that was especially interesting, and included a little steam bending. Come back next week for that.